Hello, I'm Dr. Angela Hughes, Associate Professor in the Communication Studies program. The purpose of this video is to help you better understand the basics of communication in the context of your college success. The definition of communication. Well, it makes sense that we would start with a definition of communication. You know, early definitions of communication defined it as sending and receiving messages. But I think a lot of us can relate to an experience where you sent or received a message and it didn't work. It was confusing or misunderstood. So a better definition is probably sending and receiving messages for shared meaning, because sharing meaning is what communication is for. So when we understand each other, that's when we know communication has happened. Encoding. The first element that we can think about in the communication process is encoding. That's when we put meaning in to the message. Now, this is a process we don't think about a lot of the time. I mean, when you see your friend across the courtyard and you want to say hi, you go, "Hey, what's up?" You don't go, "Oh, how do I tell them, hi, what's up?" Right? We don't think about it a lot of times, unless we have to send a complicated message or one that could be confusing or misunderstood. So for instance, if you have to miss class on a Friday for a work thing, you need to email your professor. Well, you want him to think, you want him to know that the class is important to you, right? So you might say something like, "Is there a time we can meet? Is there something I can read?" Not something like, "Hey, are we doing anything important on Friday?" So that helps us understand that when we put meaning into the message, we can think carefully about how we do that. Decoding. Decoding is exactly the opposite. If encoding is when we put meaning into the message, decoding is when we take the meaning out on the receiving end. So again, it's a process we don't often think about. If we see our friend say, "Hey, how are you?" across the courtyard, we don't go, "Oh, I wonder what they meant by that," right? We often are able to decode without any problems. It's when we don't understand the message that the decoding becomes complicated. I can remember reading a teacher's comments on a paper, and she said, "This is interesting." And I thought, is it interesting good or interesting bad? And so that's a great time when you're having trouble decoding to ask questions. That's a great way to be sure if you're decoding properly. Over the years, what I have discovered as I listen to college students in public speaking classes is that it's best to encode thinking about how the other person might perceive the message and understand it. And it's best to decode thinking about what the person intended to mean. What was their original intention? And that's how encoding and decoding works. The channel. Now the channel is the last of the elements that we can think about. The channel is how you send the message. So verbally, non-verbally, or in this case by video, but also text, email, or phone call. Those are all ways that you can send the message. And how you send the message impacts sometimes what the message means. For instance, if you've been texting with someone, but you call them because you just want to hear their voice to really figure out what they're talking about. Or if you've ever texted somebody so you don't have to call them because it's a 30-minute call and a 30-second text conversation. And so that helps us understand how the channel itself can change the message. A great example here in college is email. While it's the same phone and thumbs that you use to text your friends, the email to your professor is important that it is academic and professional and it include enough pertinent information that they can reply properly. So that gives you an idea about the channel. So all of these elements to the communication process have an impact on your college success. And I hope that while you're here in college, you're going to learn a lot of stuff, but you'll also get the chance to practice different types of communication. You'll read, write, listen, hopefully speak, and use those nonverbals. And all of those things can help you practice getting better at them. Use that to help you succeed in college and beyond. We look forward to seeing you in our communication studies classrooms.